Take two. Hey guys, how many of you, if you look back and get really honest, have been anxious about being anxious? I know I have, big time. Last few videos we did were all about how to manage our anxiety, but I'm still getting comments and questions that point out the fact that a lot of us still believe having anxiety means something must be wrong. Maybe we have some type of disorder, we're broken, or just not okay in some fundamental way. So, it might be helpful to go over the fact that we all have anxiety. The most common answer to my intake questionnaire is to the question, what are you most anxious about now? And the most common answer is, I'm most anxious about my anxiety. And this belief is entirely pushed by the fact that anxiety is seen as a disorder or an illness, when in fact it's not. In fact, not having anxiety is definitely a disorder. There's only two types of people that do not have anxiety, and they are one, dead, and two, psychopaths. I don't know about you, for me, I would not choose to be in either one of these two groups. I'm willing to take a little bit of anxiety and be happy about it. Because without anxiety, I know for myself, for example, when it's time to get out of bed and a thought runs through my head that if I don't get up right now, there's not going to be enough time to do things I want to do, plus the things I have to do that are both on my to-do list for the day. So I get up to make sure I have time for both. Or if it's time for an important meeting, it could be either social or business, it's anxiety that makes us take that extra time to prepare ourselves to be more likely to prep up and give a better first impression. So if it wasn't for anxiety, a lot of us may not even have jobs or have ever been even in a relationship. So I like to give my favorite quick analogy on how anxiety works. You might have heard it, it's pretty popular. Just wish I could remember where I heard it first and be able to give credit where credit's due. The analogy goes like this. If you can imagine your mind like a ship, and we know every ship has a captain and a crew. Now picture the captain as the logical, rational, conscious part of your mind. It's the part that knows where you want to go and believes it knows how to get there. But unfortunately, the part that does all the navigating is actually the crew, which is the subconscious part of our mind. The subconscious mind is what's in charge of all our automatic responses and actions. Subconscious part is in charge of all our habit patterns. Most thoughts we have are hidden belief system, which in turn controls all our behavior, our personality, and most importantly what we're talking about here, it controls most of our emotions. Your subconscious, the crew, sails the ship by triggering the appropriate emotions, emotional responses. So for example, if we regard something as dangerous, our crew is sending us a message that we should steer away. If we think we've been wronged or have lost something, our crew might trigger anger to make us aware so that we could take the appropriate action. So what about anxiety? And what would our crew trigger that particular emotion for? I'd like to first add here that our emotions can be triggered and felt in as many ways as there are people. So the crew's job is the same here as with the other emotions, to make us aware there is something that's going on that needs our attention. It's the crew saying to the captain, you need to pay attention to this now. And it's really important part of our crew's job is to find the most efficient and comfortable route for our safety. Safety is number one, but it's also associated with comfortability, and only then does efficiency come into play. Ultimately, our crew's job is to steer us into comfortability in the most efficient way. So when our message from our crew seems to be anxiety-filled, seems as hurtful, maybe even self-destructive, with such thoughts as not being good enough or possibly even harsher thoughts, the motives are still the same. It's to steer us away from uncomfortability and into comfortability. Bottom line is they are trying to steer us away from what's perceived as stormy seas, believing we may not be able to deal with it. Got some lightning going My crew is telling me to pack up and run. So what we need to remember at this point is every decision and message now is based on past experiences and memories. And since our most impactful of these memories from our past experiences actually come from before the age of 8. So there's a very good chance they were wrong then in the first place, and now also. So what this means, that our crew will very often make mistakes. And just because the crew might get some things wrong, does not make them the enemy, or mean we should kill the messenger, right? Yet this is what I hear. When people say to me, they want me to show them how to get rid of their anxiety, they do mean completely. Thinking like this is thinking that getting rid of it completely will fix, their problem. Thinking anxiety is the enemy can make us want to throw the crew overboard or make them walk the plank, right? Now, I do understand when it seems part of our mind actively wants to destroy us and beat us up, worse than anybody else ever could, then it would only make sense to view the crew as an enemy and to believe our mind is working against us, trying to sabotage us. It would be easy to conclude then that our mind is broken, and it makes it that much easier to believe it when somebody says that we think or the way we feel is an illness, we have a disorder, or we're broken. But to believe this can only be more harmful, and even worse, could become a trap. Because if we just try to ignore the crew, they will get louder and louder, and they'll begin shouting, most likely do it nonstop. Okay, so now hopefully we understand a little bit of our crew a little bit better and their hows and whys. Let's talk about what we could do to feel healthier and be able to say to ourselves, come on emotions, can't we all just get along? What's helped me in the past, and I've seen help everybody I've worked with, is just start off by talking about us and what we see ourselves going through. We know ignoring our emotions definitely does not help. But when we start to acknowledge them, talk about them, we soon learn that we're not so different from everybody else. Maybe we're not so disconnected or broken than everybody else. From time to time, we all have some type of mutiny going on, right? It's all of us. It's no single person. We all have it going on. What happens when we start talking about our anxiety and stop just trying to push it away? We could start to realize that there is a message that's there, it just might be a little skewed. And then being able to change that perspective on how and why can make all the difference in the world. Some of us, same as we spoke about a few videos back, we could just change our perspective on our anxiety in regard to something like, say, public speaking, reframing it into some welcome excitement type of anxiety can give us positive results with the energy to recall what we need to speak about and help us stay focused and on point, opposed to seeing it as something dreadful or possibly horrific, right? Reframing our perspective on this not only lessens our anxiety and powers us up to perform, it even affects how our body responds, incredibly creating healthy hormones in the process. I don't know if you guys see the light in it now. I'm getting some hormones produced here. Okay, so what we'll be talking about here is learn to listen to our crew, which might have seemed like an enemy, changing that into realizing they're actually friends, and they are here to help. Nice side effect of doing this, the crew doesn't have to keep shouting so loud. When the crew stops shouting, the captain can actually be heard and can start making decisions again with appropriate responses in really helpful ways, not just knee-jerk reactions. It can actually be amazing when it happens. With a little bit of willingness to listen to the crew, when we're not actively demoralized, we can actually start to feel some gratitude and maybe even start sending and receiving some messages of kindness and compassion. If you're anything like I've been in the past, where I really overreact mentally and beat myself up, sometimes to the point where it's like torture and I do it nonstop, I definitely was not being able to hear the message of kindness and compassion from myself or anybody else. Seeing that our crew only wants the best for us, can only make life so much more meaningful and enjoyable. So if you remember to take anything away from what I've been speaking about for the last couple of minutes, it's this. The next time you have some feelings creep up, don't automatically label them as bad, harmful, try to block them. Whoa. Let's instead just get a little inquisitive about the whole process, and then you might just find out that you won't explode if you sit still and feel something for a moment. If we do this a few times, we may even start to develop a habit of doing it. A habit of talking with kindness and compassion to our crew, and vice versa. I don't know if you guys could hear all this thunder going on. It's kind of cool. Thunder, yeah, you hear thunder. We know acting with kindness is way more productive and powerful than reacting with animosity, and is way better than just trying to ignore it, or worse, go to war, right? My hope though, that you do try to be open-minded, practice this a little bit, and get some willingness to practice feeling more fully. Then you'll realize that kindness is not a weakness, but actually a strength, and it might even be one of your superpowers. Okay, guys, till next time, love, peace out, and we're all good. Good night, everybody.